Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the InboundREM Whiteboard Thursday YouTube presentation. Today we're going to discuss how much is your real estate website worth. Thank you very much to one of our customers, Ben, for bringing this up and asking me how you would value a real estate website. How would you value it? How would you sell it? Do they actually have value? And the answer is 3 times in my career so far, I have helped real estate agents and brokers sell real estate websites. The value of those sites, and in a couple of cases, the value is locked behind an NDA when they sold the business. So I only have estimates, and in one case I have the specific number. I'm not going to call that client out since I know what the number is, but I will say to all the people watching this, the individual website as a line item, I have seen it get sold from anywhere from $60,000 to $225,000 as an individual item. This does not mean that there aren't other elements of the business that added value. So in a case where you're trying to sell your real estate business, if you own the website, controlled the website, you would be able to add it, basically get additional money for selling your business. The person with the highest value that I just recorded to you was an individual agent, not a broker, that sold a website that they were producing off of. And I'll explain the method in which they proved value and made that website worth a whole heck of a lot more than they ever spent themselves getting the value, like getting to the point that they could actually sell the website. All right, so how much is your website worth? Value. Let's talk about that for a second. Value in the world of digital assets is usually, like with e-commerce and with other types of websites, what you're doing is you're saying, I can prove that the website is making money. You buy the website, like there are websites out there that do this specifically, like Flika, F-L-I-K-A. And what they do is they say, how much revenue are you producing off the website? Now, with real estate agents and real estate businesses in general, the value of the website generally comes down to how much commissions can you prove that you're making through leads that are generated specifically by the website. So if they walked away from the website, you would be able to, if you bought it from them, make X amount of dollars. Now, the challenge that you have with real estate agents and real estate professionals in general is oftentimes they've done things like name the website after themselves. All right, that lowers the value significantly because the perception is that once the agent isn't working with the website, that the new owner of the website wouldn't necessarily be able to acquire the same amount of value from the leads. Additionally, there is concern that the new owners of the website, if they should change the website, like let's just say that they change it from harryjennings.com to homesinseattle.com, right? That would be a smart way to go and improve the value of the leads. Unfortunately though, since most of the time when you're talking about selling a website, it's somebody that's done SEO, built up a lot of value through content, things like that, and you get a major ding when you change the name of the website, like you get SEO devaluation, or you have to hire a company like ours to maintain the value when you make the change of a domain name, which is not cheap. It can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 to get a person like me to maintain the value of a website as you change its name in a major way, okay? So how much is the value worth? Taking all that into account, it's usually revenue that you've been able to prove that you generate off the website. Now, this assumes a few different things, ladies and gentlemen. It assumes that you're tracking where your leads are coming from. It assumes that you can prove it. In other words, you have spreadsheets, you have you've tracked how the traffic arrives at the website, and you've tracked the conversion when it happens. In other words, you've tracked the fact that it was an SEO lead that came through the website, and then you sold a home and you made X amount of dollars off it. If you're making, for instance, I recently did an analysis with another client of mine who's making about $300,000 per year in commissions off a website that's driven 100%, no paid traffic whatsoever, off SEO. And that website, through a little bit of help from us, had the good sense to name itself in a general way. So they could literally sell the website tomorrow. And as long as somebody was reasonably good at closing deals and responding to leads, they would absolutely 100% make $300,000, okay, in commission. So that website is worth at least 1 time per year. Real estate agents don't receive, like in the world of e-commerce, an e-commerce website can oftentimes receive as much as 2 to 3 years worth of revenue as a sales value for the website itself. So a website generating a net of 200,000 could sell for 600,000, okay, because you don't usually get to add in gross revenue as part of the value of the website. So with real estate agents, it's different. You get to add in all of your personal commissions into the value of the website. That's the good news. The bad news is it's pretty rare that you get somebody to want to pay 2-3 years out in advance. The exception to that is when you've had a very long track record of making, so we have 4 years of around $300,000 in the case study that I'm telling you about. And so that customer, were you to sell the website today, it would be reasonable for us to ask somewhere between $300,000 and $600,000 at a minimum for the website, just the website. This particular client has sold the website or has invested a total of $36,000 into SEO. Plus, that's it, all in. So, but they do invest a lot of their time, which is why they wouldn't get all 3 or 4 years, because the new owner may look at it and go, I don't want to spend as much time as you spend on the website. Thus, I am not going to pay you $600,000 or $1 million for the website, because I don't think I'll be able to maintain the lead flow the way that you have, because it's all based on producing new content, adding new pages, things like that. Those are the kinds of fluctuations in value and negotiation that happens. But here's what I would like you to take away from this. You still have somebody that has spent $36,000 with a professional SEO guy like me and has managed to acquire an asset that they own and control, that they are producing $300,000 per year in commission off of. So that's number one. So they're making a lot of money off it, 9 to 1 every year. If you were just looking at the original investment, about 10 to 12 to 15 to 1, if and when, because they will eventually sell the website. I've already talked to them about it. When they sell the website, they will turn their 10 or 15 to 1 ROI into a 30 to 1 ROI. So if you're a long-term thinker and you're trying to receive the most value for your time, you can pay yourself upwards of $1 million extra if you decided that you had what it took to run a website in partnership with somebody and produce like a highly valuable like SEO destination site. Which leads me to one other comment about value. And I get this a lot. A lot of people are using, most of you, as a matter of fact, watching this video, are using third-party websites there that you don't own. And technically you don't control, but we can get into that later. The website from a third party like Coldwell Banker, Sierra Interactive, Real Estate Webmasters, KV Core, which is now Bold Trail, Chime, which is now Lofty, all of them, Real Estate Webmasters, the challenge that somebody has when they're looking at buying it is they know, as well as you know watching this video, that every single day these real estate technology companies sell themselves to other people. And when they do, you don't know what's going to happen to the value of the website. So you can technically sell a website that you don't own for additional value. My guess would be it's going to be worth 10 times less than if you control it, at least. So if we were talking about $300,000 to $600,000 in the case study that I just told you, at this point, if we were talking about a client that had done the same thing, but on Sierra Interactive as an example, they might have something they could sell for $30,000 to $60,000. Everybody has to take into account that Sierra Interactive just did sell themselves. Nobody really knows what the new owner is going to do with the site. They don't even know technically if the site is going to be there in 3 years. So at a minimum, there's no way in the world that you're going to be able to sell a platform that you don't own and don't control for anything more than 10 to 15% of a premium based on whether you do own it. Because if you own it or built it on WordPress or something else or custom built it and you own it and control it, there's no doubt that you're aiming for the gold, the brass ring, which is what all entrepreneurs aim at, is at some point I would like to sell this and get a very large payout for a lot of hard work. So method. I've covered this a little bit in my opening statements. So method is more like, how do you make sure that you've got something you can sell? Trackability. Track the amount of traffic that you have. Track how much you spend. Do you use paid advertising to generate some of your lead conversion? And if so, how much is that? You have to have a spreadsheet that separates that out by bucket. Are you getting multiple sources that kind of hinge on your website in terms of conversion? Like, do you do social media campaigns, but drive them to your website, as an example? You have to track all the spending and all the channels in order for the new owner to feel very comfortable and confident. Like if they look at it and you've got 9 different areas you're spending traffic on to achieve a $1 million commission rate per year, $1 million of gross revenue, you have to show somebody where all the ways that you generated this traffic come from. Okay, organic keeps it simple in the sense that it's a single channel. It does not keep it simple because these days organic, in order to be successful, have to have things like video and multimedia assets, images, and usually actual personal contribution from the realtor themselves. So in other words, you can't just hire a company, get it done, and which you used to be able to do, and just automatically walk away with an asset that is worth far more. Usually you have to participate. And there's the complication of how much do reviews count. In the circumstances in which somebody who's been very smart and has somebody throw in the occasional review, like the Cabo Real Estate Services team did a very good job, and without mentioning individuals, okay, inside reviews, because reviews count for both ranking and conversion these days. So reviews make the evaluation process a little bit more complicated, unless of course you're tracking. How many people mentioned you, how many people were referrals, how many people. If you track it in methodology, it makes your asset more sellable, because as long as somebody feels like you've covered in your analysis of how you're making money, and it's very detailed and specific, they will feel far more comfortable shelling out whatever, like a higher value for the site, because they know that you've pointed out all the areas that they'd have to replicate in order to maintain and grow the value of the asset. Timeline. Now that's tricky. In the case studies that I have, my fastest timeline was one of my oldest clients, somebody I've done business with for 15 or 16 years straight. That client, when they decided to sell their brokerage, they actually were approached. And from the time they were approached to the time that they kind of chewed on it and then sold it was under 30 days. They are the lowest value of all the people that I'm mentioning. But they did manage to get something like 3 times the amount that they had ever spent in SEO as a final. The website upsold the total purchase price. As they were negotiating with the broker who approached them, they wanted to buy their business, they said fine. And as they did the negotiation, the person being approached said, I want to add the website in as its own individual line item. And they basically got, let's just call it $60,000 to $80,000 extra dollars that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise had they not done that. They were already doing tracking, which again was at least in part due to me and having conversations like this from the very moment that I took them on as a client. The idea that it was sellable and its own line item came from us as well. And they were able to basically make, just off that one piece of information, they were able to make more than they'd ever spent with me by far, okay, by 3 times. And that's not counting the leads and the revenue generated during the course of the relationship. This is just an exit value. So timeline here was 30 days, 30 to maybe 45 days. On the longest side of it, the individual with the highest amount that I told you about, they actually listed their website with brokers, business brokers. They attempted to sell it. It took a long time. I'm not going to misconstrue. It took about 18 months. They knew that they wanted a high exit price. They had done a lot of work, spent a lot more money than the client that I just mentioned. Let's call it north of $100,000. Okay, they had spent that much. So when they were looking to exit, they knew they wanted to at least double their money on the investment on the site. And so timeline for them took a lot longer and a lot longer than any I've heard of in the past. Like it took 18 months. And they were listing it with sites like Flicka and other brokers, and they had hired individual brokers. I do not know what they paid, so I have no idea, but most likely it was a commission. Okay, mostly, maybe a small setup fee and then probably a commission to sell the site. That's usually how brokers work. So whoever helped them sell the site probably got a chunk of that $225 as a finder's fee to find the ultimate buyer and make the sale happen. The broker's finder's fees usually range between 15 and 25%. So they net probably lost 50 grand. All right. Still, when you look at all of these conversations, like if for those of you who've been in real estate for a long time who are watching this video, you already know that like houses and properties and things like that, they can accrue in value depending on when you decide to try to sell the asset is a big part of how long the timeline is going to take. If you're selling the asset right now in a struggling real estate market that is tougher than the last 10 years, it's going to take a lot longer, most likely. However, if you were wise and timed your exit as the market was gaining acceleration, you would absolutely probably have a much shorter timeline. If I had to say off the cuff to somebody calling into me and doing a consultation, I would say probably a reasonable amount of time from start to finish to sell the site would be 6 months, okay? There's a lot of variables, as I've already explained. If you have questions, if you're thinking that you would like, if you have an asset like this and you're trying to sell it, and you just want a free consultation to try to get an understanding of how much it might be worth and how long it might take you to sell it, I open the door. Either there will be a link to me or like in the video itself that you're watching this on, or option B, there's always a link to my calendar on my services and company page, which is InboundREM.com. If you've liked this video, if it hit you in the right way, or if it was information that you found really valuable, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up.